Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time to finish my review of Batman: The Joker Warzone. Obviously, a few days ago, I did review the story from John Ridley that was pertaining to essentially defunding Batman as Lucius Fox is coming to acquisition of all of Bruce Wayne's billions of dollars and decided not to give it back. And we also saw Batwing as well, Luke Fox, and called out that they want to bring Tim back. So I did want to talk about the other four stories. And I do think this is a weird comic book because it's called Joker Warzone, but really only one story out of the five pertains to Joker War. Like, I guess you could loosely tie the other ones, but they really don't have anything to do with Joker War. This is almost like a preview comic of what to expect in Batman in 2021. You see that over and over. Like the stuff we see in the John Ridley story, John Ridley's Batman's coming out in 2021. It specifically says, look out for this in 2021 in multiple stories in the Joker War Zone. So I think it's really weird that they branded this a Joker War like tie-in because it feels like it has absolutely nothing to do with the actual Joker War event. And now this is, I call it a 3-star comic book, but I don't recommend it. And here's why. This is also like a $6 or $7 comic book. And there's a good story in here, and there's a lot of average. So normally if it was a 3-star, I would say, yeah, I'll recommend it. It's not a bad comic book. Go check it out. You might enjoy it. But because of the price associated with this comic book, I expect the quality to be higher than a normal comic. So this is a 3-star comic, but I don't recommend it because of the price. I just don't think you're getting enough bang for your buck, for one story to really be worth it, in my opinion. Now, obviously, you could have disagreed with me and you think, oh, these are banging, and you don't mind that Joker Warzone has absolutely nothing to do with Joker War, and this was your jam. Like I said, we're allowed to disagree, people. I will not hold that against you. Please do not hold it against me. Obviously, I do these reviews because I do love comics. I read a lot of comic books. This is something I had high expectations, well, medium expectations. I knew we were going to get a clown hunter story. That's a character I've been wanting to see more within Joker War. We've only seen him a couple times. I think maybe he's only had one line of dialogue so far. So I was excited about that. And we do get that. And that's absolutely the best story. So the creators on this, it's like James Tynion wrote 2 of them. Joshua Williamson wrote 1. I can't remember the writer of the other one. I think her name is Sam Johns. I might be wrong on that one. There's some good artists, Guillem being really the standout that we'll get to. That's easily the best illustrated story within this anthology comic. Now, before I get into the details, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this review. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I definitely wanted to hear your thoughts on Batman Joker Warzone in the comment section. And, let's get a dialogue going. What do you guys think about it? Are you more impressed with this than I was? So let's get right into the quality. This is going from best to worst, in my opinion. And the best comic is absolutely the worst illustrated comic in here. This is Clown Hunt from James Tynion, the writer of Batman, and James Stokoe. Now, this art has a place in comic books, and it's perfectly acceptable in certain comics. I wouldn't expect art like this in a Batman comic. I just don't think it fits the style. It's like putting Riley Rossmo on a Batman comic. I'll never understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, yes, he's got a place in comics, but Batman isn't one of them. It doesn't feel right. Obviously, this isn't reminiscent of Riley Rossmo. What I'm saying, he has a style that doesn't really fit the general tone and setting of Batman and Gotham. And I'll also say this is the ugliest illustrated Joker I've ever seen. Why does he look like Sloth from the Goonies? Like, hey, you guys. Okay, that's what I expect him to do. This is Joker. You wouldn't even, when I first saw him, I was like, I think that might supposed to be Joker because of the hair. But I was like, it can't be Joker. It must just be one of his henchmen. But no, this is Joker. Also, down here we see Punchline. We get a close-up of her face here. She looks really Asian here. And I remember when I first saw the character, I thought she was Asian, but it turns out when we see the backstory, she's not. She's a Caucasian character. I don't know why they're making her look so Asian here. So I thought that was confusing. But this is definitely, as far as story and entertainment goes, within Joker Warzone, this is the best story. If they had taken Guillem and just written a 24-page comic about this with Guillem, it would have been like a 5-star comic because it would have been badass. But unfortunately, I don't like the illustrations on this. But I do like the story. I like seeing Clown Hunter. like I said, we really haven't met the Clown Hunter much, and we don't know much about him other than he has a baseball bat with a batarang on it. Now, we don't know much more than that after this comic book, if I'm being completely honest. We do see his face. So if you thought this was a current character in DC Comics, I know Pele had thought this was going to end up being James Gordon Jr. Obviously, we knew that wasn't the case because he offed himself in Batgirl last week. But this is not James Gordon Jr. This is a teenage character, like he says he is. He does talk a little bit about what his motivations are. His parents are dead, and this is what he had to say when they're kind of talking to him. Batman had his chance to save the city. He had his chance to save my parents, to save everyone you clowns are terrorizing. And there's actually a really cool scene after this, as he's kind of taken out the clowns at this point. And it's just these two left. Maybe there's a couple more. But you see all these people in the windows here. Like all of his neighbors are watching him. And they get to this point where he's like, all of a sudden, I think the clown here realizes how effed he is, because the whole neighborhood's chanting "Clown Hunter, Clown Hunter," like he's in like Thunderdome or something. And I think he realizes, oh, this guy is a little bit more dangerous than I thought. Because apparently, he does not have that red line that Batman has. He absolutely has no problem killing people. That's another weird thing. I probably should point this out. It's weird that it's called Batman Joker Warzone. Batman's really not in this comic. Well, I mean, not really not in this comic. I mean, he's not in this comic book. He's on the cover, sort of. There's a half of his face. This probably should have just been called the Joker Warzone because Batman's not in it. And I think if Batman's in the title, you should probably get the character. But that's the best story. It's the Clown Hunter story. I don't really appreciate the art. I would appreciate it on something else, but as far as like Gotham and the Joker War, I don't think it fits the setting. That's just me. Now, the next one is the other story written by James Tynion. This is what I would say is the second best story. And I would probably rate the John Ridley story as the third best after these two. And this one is illustrated by Guillem, who was working on the Batman series before Jorge Jimenez took over for Joker War. Obviously, Jorge Jimenez has done a little bit of work with Batman as well. And this is easily the best illustrated comic. This is an interesting one. It's called A Serious House. You can see at the bottom it says, to be continued in 2021. And this is about Joker's response to Bane and Tom King's City of Bane. It's interesting. It feels like James Tynion's taking the piss out of Tom King. Like Joker in here, he's telling him, you wasted the death of Alfred on the boy. And I think he's kind of taking the piss out of Tom King. He's like, you wasted the death of one of the most important characters in Batman mythos on nothing. Like you didn't even really impact Batman. It didn't like what you did was a waste. And it kind of goes through, and he's like, you had Batman where you wanted him. You were running Gotham from Arkham. You had this plan put had the wheels go in motion for years, and you just wasted the death of Alfred on the stupid boy. What? So he'll go to therapy? You should have used it on Batman. That would have broke him. And I don't know if this is really I don't know if Tynion really writes the Joker well. He doesn't have any of the Joker's crazy, but he's still a little bit charming sometimes, and he just writes him as absolutely beyond crazy. You kind of get that, but that's what this story is about. It's basically Joker goes into Arkham Asylum. Bane is hooked up to this machine where they're essentially extracting venom from him, and he goes in there to tell him, "You did bad, kid. You took over Gotham and you ruined it. All you did was, you broke Thomas Wayne's back and you traumatized a kid. You should have broken the bat. That's what I wanted to do." So this is the second most interesting story. Like I said, this doesn't really play into Joker War either. The Clown Hunter story certainly does because that character is introduced in it. This doesn't. This is setting up a story in 2021 where, at the very end, Joker says, I will have my revenge on you, talking to Bane, because he ruined and wasted the death of Alfred. He's like, you don't know what, you won't know where, you won't know why, or you won't know when, kind of thing. So obviously, Joker isn't going to be done at the end of Joker, where I imagine I have mentioned in my writing for the Omnibus video that James Tynion is one of the culprits. the man absolutely writes for Omnibus. It does not feel like Joker War. With a story like that, you would think that would be the end of the Batman and Joker, at least with James Tynion's run. No, that's not going to be the end of it. Because obviously, there's going to be a big battle between Bane and Joker later on as he exacts retribution because Bane wasted the death of Alfred on Damian. There you go. It's all right. It's not all that good, but it's illustrated really good. The illustration's great. But I did enjoy James Tynion taking the piss out of Tom King. He deserved it. Now, the last two that I would say are the fourth and fifth best ones, there's an Ivy book, and then there's a spoiler and orphan book. And the only reason I'm saying Ivy's better is because I think the art's better from Laura Braga. This one is from Sam John, so I guess I was correct. And it's called Ashes of Eden. And if you remember within Joker War, Harley is like in a park. She's waiting for Ivy to come back so she can help her out as she's kind of saving Batman, and she never arrives. Well, apparently she does arrive now because these guys at the bottom are like burning trash in her garden, and there's beer cans on the ground, and she gets upset and she's like, "What are you guys doing? Like, where's Harley? The love of my life. Where is she at? She's abandoned me. I hate everything." It feels like they're trying to reset Poison Ivy back to being like a straight villain. Because there's been so much character growth, and there's so much inconsistency with the character throughout DC Comics. You know, is she in a relationship with Booster Gold? Is she in a relationship with Harley Quinn? You know, is she single? Is she straight? Is she bi? Is, you know, whatever. It never feels like they can get their story straight with Poison Ivy. And this is without a doubt my least favorite character probably in all of comic books. It probably has to do with the complete inconsistency of the character across the line. You never know who Poison Ivy is. Also, I think she's just far too powerful. Anyone that can control vegetation, Batman or Superman could never beat. Like, even if you beat her, she just pop up anywhere. Like, I don't understand how she doesn't realize that Gotham is under siege. She's in connection with the Green. She can't figure out that Gotham is burning to the ground right now. And maybe Harley is on the run, trying not to die in the Joker War. It feels like something, a character as powerful and as connected as Poison Ivy would know. I don't know. That's just me. But as you get this weird spot, there's like this other lady. She shows up after she takes care of those fools. And this is what she has to say. This is them resetting the character. It's just really unbelievable. "I let myself be distracted by pursuits of the flesh, but I forgot that humans aren't like plants." How'd you forget that one? "They're animals, mostly violent and always unpredictable. Plants always keep an even temperament. I think it's time to reevaluate my priorities. I tried giving the world a paradise, and now the only choice I have left is to raise hell." And she becomes Queen Ivy. And she's apparently a villain now, and she doesn't love Harley Quinn anymore because she stood her up, people. She didn't wonder why. She was just like, screw that bitch. She left me high and dry. I'm going to go destroy the world. Not a great story. I would say this is actually pretty bad. Now, the next one is also pretty bad. It's probably just because it feels pretty pointless. Now, it does introduce a new character. I believe he's called the Henchmaster. He reminds me of like flamboyant, worthless Zangief is the way I would describe him. He's obviously some type of professional wrestler with multicolored eyebrows. I imagine that's because he's training all the clowns for the Joker. Pretty stupid stuff. Not a very effective villain. But this is really all about Spoiler and Orphan coming back. And they're on the rooftop. They're going to go confront the Henchmaster and all of his lame, worthless henchmen. Now, Joker should probably kill the Henchmaster after what Clown Hunter did to all his henchmen, you know, in Clown Hunter Alley, but whatever. This character needs to die because he's worthless. He's obviously not training his henchmen very, very well. But really the only point of this story is because at the end, it says the symbol, that's the name of the story. This is Joshua Williamson. I don't think he got much to work with here. And it says our symbol, and you see the Batgirl symbol on Spoiler and Orphan. I imagine this is because Orphan is taking over the Batgirl role as Barbara Gordon becomes Oracle full time. But this doesn't say to be continued in 2021. This is the only one that it doesn't really appear to have implications besides the Clown Hunter, which actually ties into Warzone. So is she going to be Batgirl? Is she not? I don't know. I imagine she is. Maybe her and Spoiler will be co-Batgirls. It'll be a team book. Spoiler and Orphan is Batgirl. I don't know. But this is like worthless. Like, I don't think the art is as good as the Poison Ivy story. At least they were trying to do something. Well, I guess, they're in Poison Ivy, they're trying to reset the character, make her a villain again. And here they're trying to reintroduce and re-emphasize that Orphan and Spoiler are Batgirls. Okay? Well, there you go. Job done. Well done? I'd say not, because this is really boring. It felt pointless, and the Henchmaster was defeated in about 2 pages. So he obviously wasn't the master of anything but being destroyed. So that's my thoughts. Not a whole lot great going on in the pages of the Joker War Zone. Should not be called Batman the Joker War Zone. It should be just the Joker War Zone, because there's no Batman in this comic book. They don't even really mention him very often, now that I'm thinking about it. So not really much connection to the Joker War either. You have the Clown Hunter story, but other than that, everything else feels like it's a preview for 2021. This probably should have been the DC Comics Free Comic Book Day offering, to be completely honest. Other than the Clown Hunter story, the other 4 stories should have been the Free Comic Book Day. Would have set everybody up for Batman in 2021. That's all this is really doing. I do think it's a bait and switch. This has nothing really to do with the Joker War. And I would say even the Clown Hunter story gives you a little bit of information, but almost nothing new that we didn't already know about the character. So you just got a highlight of what he's capable of, which we already know he was capable of killing clowns. So I'm calling this a 3-star comic book, and I'm not recommending it because of the price. But now that I'm talking about it, I feel like it should be a 2.5-star comic and not recommended just because of the quality as well. There's just not a whole lot good going on here. And like I said, it's a bait and switch. Nothing to do with Joker War. This is a preview comic for 2021 that they're charging you $6 or $7 for. So that's my review, folks. I will see you later.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.